Hi, welcome back to Just Vetting, the podcast where we go beyond the exam room to talk business, ownership, and leadership in the veterinary world. Today's guest is Dr. Amelie McAndrews, a board-certified equine dentist and the owner of Garden State Equine Dentistry, a thriving mobile equine dentist practice serving New Jersey and beyond. Amelie, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
Yeah, it's great. So let's get right into it, Amelie. Let's just go back to the start. Did you always see yourself working with horses?
Yeah, I mean, I was a horse crazy child, like from birth, pleading with my parents to let me ride as soon as I could. So I was a horse crazy child, and then I knew I wanted a career in horses. So I looked at all the career options that I felt were viable, or at least that I could understand as an elementary school student, and landed as equine veterinarian was going to be what I wanted to do with my life when I was pretty small. And
that's interesting. So take me back to, now you went to Michigan State to get your degree, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then when you graduated, you didn't go right into the equine field. Weren't you didn't you go into general practice initially?
I did equine general practice. I graduated from Michigan State in 2009 with my DVM. Then I did an internship at an equine practice, and then I ended up at a general equine practice here in New Jersey. And that's kind of where I saw myself staying for I saw the example that I saw growing up, and my idea of success in equine practice, and my career goal was just to be an owner of like a 2 to 3, 4, some sort of smallish equine general practice. That was what I wanted to do, or that's what I thought I was going to do. And that's what I was an associate for 5 years, doing equine general practice.
Got it. Okay. And then when did you realize that equine dentistry could be your calling rather than just, general practice?
Yeah. So as a general practitioner, I did a fair amount of equine dentistry, and I convinced my boss to buy me a bright headlight. And then, so once I had this bright headlight, I started to be able to actually get a really good look, inside horses' mouths. And then once I could see things, it led to more questions about what I was looking at and how to treat it. So then I developed an interest in dentistry, and I was still a general practitioner, but I was doing a lot of dentistry, and that's what led me to one of my mentors, who was one of the founding members of the Equine Dentistry Specialty College. So I learned a lot from him, and that set me down that path. So.
And we'll talk about that a little bit. In terms of mentors, I think everybody I speak with who's successful like yourself has somewhere along the line has found a mentor who really kind of guided and helped with their career path. So it's interesting that you say that. What I guess in terms of dental care, and I know I was looking at your website in anticipation of you and I, talking today. You mentioned about being transformative in dental care and how it impacts horses. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So, unlike, if your horse has a wound on its leg or your pet has, a bump on its side, you can see it. The tricky thing with a horse's mouth is the majority of it horse owners can't see, and no one can see really unless you do a good sedated oral exam. So once I learned how to do this good sedated exam, you can find all sorts of things in there. And horses, in a lot of ways, they're not stoic, but they are very stoic about sort of hiding oral pain, because they're prey animals, so they kind of live to eat, and they'll eat almost no matter what. So there's all kinds of subtle problems that I've found that we fix them and the horse is overall so much happier, or eating better, or gaining weight, or performing better, and owners really, owners really appreciate that. It's also cool. A lot of it is somewhat instant gratification because I can, a lot of, unlike like internal medicine problems or really difficult problems that, never get better or take forever to get better. A lot of things I can, I can extract the infected tooth, or if the horse has a sharp point or something that's bothering him, I can fix it. So it's been really cool. And historically, not a lot of people were interested in equine dentistry. It's still a very small field. I think there's about 25 of us in the U.S. that are boarded in equine dentistry. There's a lot of folks out there there's a lot of veterinarians out there who have an interest in dentistry and who are doing great work. But it's cool to be part of this field that I kind of feel like I entered sort of on the ground floor, and have been able to grow with this specialty and teach others. And it's just a really cool thing to get to see grow, and people have interest in, and a lot of obviously opportunities for teaching here too. So, yeah.
Right. You're talking about like really making an impact, in the type of medicine. And when you said that, came to my mind, Secretariat. I remember seeing that movie, and there was one point where the horse wasn't eating, they couldn't figure out what was the matter, and he ended up having, I think, an abscess. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Like in his mouth. I guess it was really irritating him and impacting his entire health as a result of that. And once they figured that out, all of a sudden his appetite came back, and everything else came right back to him.
Yeah, no, there's a great opportunity to help people and help owners and help other veterinarians, because, it's awesome to get to help other veterinarians work through these cases, and it's can be very rewarding.
What you mentioned you came out of your internship, and then you're in the general practice. You were an associate. Starting your own practice, there's always some risk involved there. What are those early days? I guess. Talk about, when you thought about, hey, I'm going to go do this on my own, and what that transition looked like for you.
Sure. So so my practice it's turning 10 this year, believe it or not.
Congratulations. I can't believe it's been that long.
I know. It's been a minute, and how things have changed. So my practice ownership journey was not a linear path either. As I mentioned earlier, I always thought I wanted to be sort of an owner of like a 3-vet practice or something, and I was on that. I was on that path. When I first met you, we were trying to negotiate with my former boss to buy his practice. He had like a 3-vet practice. And we spent almost a year on that. And then that deal, and in the plan is that I would become a partner in that practice, and then my dentistry mentor wanted to retire, so that then the main practice would buy the dentistry practitioner's practice. That was going to be the plan. And we spent almost a year working on that. And then the deal fell through when I was about a week postpartum with my first child. So it wasn't the greatest timing. And I, of course, had no idea what to do, because I was a week postpartum and could barely figure out what I wanted to have as a snack, let alone what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. But the good news is I had you and my business advisor, Annie Clark, were really helpful in guiding me at a very critical time when I was not capable of making my own decisions. And you guys were like, don't worry, Amelie, the deal didn't, clearly you want to be a practice owner, and practice ownership is for you. So we will figure out a different way. So I end up buying the solo practitioner who was my mentor. We ended up buying his practice. He wanted to retire ASAP. So I remember I quit my job when I was 10 days postpartum. I called my mom to tell her that I quit my job, and she thought I was going through some sort of psychosis, postpartum psychosis episode. But anyways, Anyways, but it was from then, it took about 3 months from that point to when we closed on the dentistry practice, the dentistry practice. But the dentistry practice was very small, which was actually perfect. And I think in retrospect, well, there's so many ways that this was, in retrospect, was the most amazing decision ever. It was nice to start with a smaller practice. It's much easier to, when you're learning how to be a business owner, it's much easier to start with when you have something small as opposed to something bigger with more financial things at stake and with more people at stake. Starting with this small practice was much easier. But yeah, I always knew I wanted to be a practice owner. I knew I wanted the control. I wanted to direct the mission, vision, where the practice went, who I worked with. I knew I wanted to do that. The benefits of practice ownership and how much I love it, I never would have guessed, or I didn't understand all of them, and just my love for being a practice owner and getting to direct the practice has only grown in the last 10 years. And obviously there's low points and there's points when you really want to pull your hair out.
Right.
But in general, the journey's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, to talk about, I forgot some of the early days.
10 years ago. 10 years ago. It was a while ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I have a hard enough time remembering what I had for dinner last night. So
yeah, exactly.
It's tough. But, I think you're the third, if not fourth guest I've had on here of my clients who, and it just shows how resilient you all are, who either had a baby before they bought a practice or during the practice, or at some point we're closing. It is amazing, and I forgot that part of it with you. That's right. It's you think about it, and your mom must have thought you were nuts. Child. Yes.
She thought I totally 100% lost my brain. But I really appreciate the sound guidance that you and others provided really helped, because at that point, and the good thing is we had such a relationship that you knew what I wanted and knew where I needed to go. So just having someone who could help direct me when I literally did not have a brain to function, just because we had already been doing this for almost a year as we with the other practice, that was tremendously valuable, having that relationship and being able to have trusted advisors to guide you when you can't think for yourself. But that's why you're here, right?
Yeah. So. Thank you for that. And it goes both ways, because having a client, you may have said you weren't sure. You had the vision, like you said, you knew what you wanted to do. And I love how you mentioned it wasn't like this linear path. You had a pivot. You were going down one path, and then that door closed. And rather than throwing up the white flag, you just pivoted and look. One door closed, another door opened, and look what happened for you. I mean, it was like it was meant to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, in the long run, this is far better. This was a far better path. And I felt I was stuck. I think we all do this. We get stuck in thinking, you think you know what you want, or you think you have a vision for your future, but there might be a different path that's actually better. And it's hard to understand. Sometimes you don't see it until it's forced upon you, really. So it's because it was kind of forced upon me to pivot. And honestly, it was the better decision all along. So I'm glad that I was forced to pivot.
What you mentioned, you talked about benefits and can you go in a little bit about some of the benefits and or challenges? And I guess the challenges are probably pretty obvious. All business owners have very similar challenges. But can you talk a little bit about some of the benefits and challenges of having your own practice? What you've experienced.
Sure. I mean, the list is long, but I can sum it up. I mean, basically, the most important thing is being able to control the mission, the vision, the direction of your practice. You get to control, who you work with, what hours you work, the clients you work for, the type of medicine you practice. You get to, the facilities, the equipment that you use, all of those, you're the one who's in charge, and you want to make a change, and you can listen to whoever, get whatever advisors you want to help you make those decisions, but being able to guide it is important. And, I think, when I want to take time off, I take time off. Obviously, if you don't work, you don't earn money, and your practice, needs to keep going. But like, if I need an afternoon off to go pick up my kids from an activity, it's fine. I had my first child, during the practice of buying the practice. I actually went on to have 2 more children, so I have 3 kids. So I took 2 maternity leaves while being a solo practitioner, which seems very scary. At least it does the first time I did it. But the clients are there when you get back, and it's if you need to take a pause, you can take a pause. Same with, I took time off to study I did a residency, so I spent a part-time residency, so I spent a fair amount of my time traveling to complete my residency requirements. So that took me away from the practice, and then studying for boards and the whole thing. But I was able to do that partially because I didn't have anyone else who was questioning whether that was a good idea or not. Like, my husband knew it was a good idea. I knew it was a good idea. So we were just going to get that goal done. And same with having all my children, like it just, I don't have anyone making me feel bad about it, Right. Obviously you get to keep the profits. If you're the owner, you get to keep the profits. So especially for, I now have a clinic as well, so that eats up a little bit of the overhead, or that creates a little bit of overhead. But, a mobile equine practice has a very low overhead. And you get to keep those profits if you're the boss. So you can work less hours for more money, because you get to keep all those profits. So that's a big financial benefit of practice ownership. So yeah, I think those, that sums up the main ones. Certainly disadvantages are, you have to deal with clients who are difficult, human resources, once you have a good team and they stay with you, it's amazing. But hiring or finding new people can be really stressful, because it really affects, especially in a small team, it really affects your life if you don't have, your good team set up. And obviously it's stressful sometimes if things are slow or something, or, when you have to take time off, that can be stressful. But again, being small and nimble, it's much easier to be nimble and to adjust or change course. And there's been times when I've had to change course or things, as I said, taking all the time off that I've had to take. But that practice ownership, being a practice owner, has allowed me to accomplish all that. So.
Yeah, and I obviously, every job or anything that you do is going to have stress involved in it, right? Mm-hmm. So no matter whether you're an associate or you're a practice owner, but all the benefits that you listed out in terms of substantially outweigh any stress, especially because it's all on you. Yeah, you can take as much maternity leave as you want, but like you said, if you're not working, you're not getting paid. So it's like the tail wagging the dog almost in that sense.
Yeah, but the clients are there.
Right.
Yeah, the clients are there. They'll be there when you get back. My friends and I always have gotten stressed about this as we've gone through this. And right. Everyone's, I have a lot of friends who are solo practitioners, and their clients are there when they get back, and everyone sometimes needs time off. You could get hurt, or you could need, have to take care of your partner or a relative. So it's just comforting to know that you can do it and you're going to survive, so
right.
Yeah.
Talk. Can you talk a little bit about? You've said the clients are there. There's a reason they're there. How is there something that you can talk a little bit about how you build trust or those strong relationships that why they are there? Because I'm sure they're not there for everybody. Well, what are you doing, or what do you think you're doing that said that's why they're there for you and wanting them to come back?
Yeah. So first of all, you have to understand.
Stands out.
Yeah, first of all, you have to be okay with and understand that not every client is going to be your client, and that's okay. And that's another benefit of a small practice like this. If a client doesn't value what I have to offer, then they're not going to be my client, and that's fine. I don't have to, that's fine. But my clients, I'm a boarded specialist, as I mentioned before. There's very few of us. There's no one else who's a board specialist in New Jersey or Eastern Pennsylvania, where I work. So, the clients that know they want the most educated, highly qualified person, and then try to offer a very good customer experience, as most people do, but we provide very detailed medical records, try to be really good at communicating with clients, and obviously we're very thorough. We're very thorough in, the imaging that we provide to clients and show, and what we be able to explain to them. So yeah, and then also part of that, as a referral practice, I have a really good relationship with many veterinarians, and being able to help these veterinarians with their clients and being able to answer questions of the veterinarians. It helps when clients come to me saying that my veterinarian, trusts me or told me that I need to see you, so that, lends they come to me with some trust, because they trust their veterinarian and their veterinarian trusts me. So it's sort of I have a relationship with the clients, but then developing good relationships with my referring veterinarians has been really important too.
I have 3 kids myself, and they're a little older, young adults. And I always tell them, one of the biggest things in life is relationships. And, we were talking about it earlier in my firm too. I was at a luncheon with some of our younger associates, and just explaining the importance of building relationships inside your practice, like you're talking about with your employees. You got a small group, a team, and then those relationships outside your practice, referring veterinarians, clients. I mean, that's what life's all about, is just realizing and managing and maintaining those relationships. Takes time, treating people right.
It does. No, it does. It takes time.
If you can go back to, let's say you go back to the beginning, the 2015, what would you tell yourself before you, what could you think about, what would you tell yourself before you officially launched? I know that was a very, like you said, chaotic time, I guess, for you.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you'd give to yourself, or any like veterinarians out there who, are thinking about carving out, not, their own practice, let alone a unique niche that you've been so successfully doing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just telling myself and the others, it's going to be okay. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Trust your instincts. Find good advisors to help you. I was really lucky. At the same time, the weekend before I saw my first appointment was also my first meeting with my Decade 1 group, and actually we were the very first Decade 1 group. So for folks who don't know, Decade 1 is it's basically like a mentoring group with your peers, and there's moderators of it. And initially it was meant for the people in their first 10 years of equine practice. Now it's kind of pivoted to their first 10 years of, it can be equine practice or practice ownership. So you can have been out for a while, but a new practice owner. So that was really tremendously helpful, because that immediately gave me this group of peers and advisors who actually knew something, to sort of help, guide and teach all the financial and business things that I hadn't had before. But it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. Find yourself a mentor, and then a group. I'm glad you mentioned that. I've heard a number of clients talk about certain key groups that they became a part of, where you can collaborate with other like-minded professionals or colleagues. What's working for you, or what didn't work for you, and you can leverage their experiences to help you be successful in your own practice. What's looking ahead over the next few years? What's your vision for Garden State? What do you, any new services, technologies, or collaborations that you're excited about?
Sure. I mean, it's funny. So, one thing I wanted to bring up, or I thought I think we always push, I think we're early, people with our personalities, I think, are always taught to sort of always keep striving for the next thing, you know what I mean? Keep working harder, keep growing. And while definitely I see in the future, I should really take on a resident. There's not enough equine dentists, and we need more of us. So I should take on a resident and train more, and maybe have an associate. I think it's also important. I am very much happy to focus on just staying small and like enjoying where, where I am or where I am now. It's funny, it takes work to train it's taken work for me to train my brain that it's like
Right.
that pause, because I think we all get so focused on like growing and growing and growing. And, I worked so hard to get to this where I am right now. And there has been, it's been blood, sweat, and tears to get here. And I mean, I love it. It's been amazing. But, I have three elementary age kids. They're really fun, and it's fun to hang out with them, and they're not going to want to hang out with me for forever. I worked really hard to pass boards and get here. So and right now my practice has this really amazing team. I have 2 veterinary assistants who ride with me every day. So we are an amazingly efficient team, and I would encourage I would encourage any veterinarian if they're thinking about hiring another veterinarian, is to perhaps hire more support staff first to be as efficient as possible, especially in equine practice. I mean, not everyone has a veterinary assistant, let alone 2 veterinary assistants. So I highly encourage folks to get 2 veterinary assistants if you can swing it, because it's amazing. The efficiencies with that are amazing. But I mean, I'm optimistic about the future. The practices continue to grow, but I also feel like it's okay. And this is, again, because I'm a practice owner and I can make this decision. It's also okay to enjoy where you are and stay where you are, if that's where you want to be. You continue growing, like obviously professionally, but if you don't want to grow your practice, you don't have to.
Right, and I guess there's different
Yeah.
types of growth. You may not be growing
Yeah.
from a client standpoint, but you're deepening those relationships, and there's going to come a point, and I'm kind of there now with my kids, where they're not going to be hanging with you as much. Starting this September, it's going to be an official empty nester, and my wife and I are like, gee, what are we going to do with our time? Because you're
Yeah.
so used to, as you know, going
Yeah.
here or there, or scheduling around their time. So there'll
Yeah.
be probably no time for you to do that.
Yeah. No, and the thing is you can, or I have continued to grow the client situation, but I've just become so much more efficient that like I don't have to do it. I've grown more staff, but
Yeah.
it's keeping it to the level. And you know what? You don't have to see every client either. Like you can say no, so that's
Right,
the
you don't have to be
amazing
the
thing
tip of the
about-
spear all the time either. That's why you have
Exactly.
your staff over.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
How can our listeners connect with you or learn more about the incredible work that you're doing within the equine dentistry?
Sure. Well, I have a website, gardenstateequine.com, so they can check that out. We have the office email is office@gardenstateequine.com. Feel free to reach out that way. Yeah. And then the abdc.org is the the website of our specialty college. So there's more information there about the ABDC.
Excellent. Great. Amelie, it's great to see you. Before we go, I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday and thank you for joining us today on your birthday. I hope you have a wonderful dinner with your husband tonight and you get to celebrate. Just the two of you. That's always important.
Yeah.
You got to remember those days. And really, thank you for joining me today. It's great to see you, and I really appreciate your time and sharing your experiences with our listeners.
Great. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.